you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes. And that was because they were angry with Camilla.
The British royal family has always kept many things private. But today, some of that mystery is being revealed. After 20 years of loyal work, the former royal gardener has finally broken his silence. And what he's revealing about Queen Camilla is turning heads across the kingdom. Why is he talking now? Join us as we uncover the shocking revelation about Queen Camilla by the royal gardener. Royal gardener's perspective. He never wore a crown, but his life was closely tied to it. For 20 long years, he worked quietly in the background, choosing to stay out of the spotlight. Only a handful of people within Kensington Palace even knew his name. He wasn't a royal, nor a nobleman, but his hands shaped the world around them. He was the royal gardener. While the cameras focused on famous faces standing on royal balconies, he was tucked away behind the hedges, trimming roses, raking leaves, and overhearing the silences that said more than words ever could. His name is Stokes, and he never wanted to cause drama or stir up wild theories. That wasn't his goal. But after 2 decades of careful watching, listening, and simply being there, he felt it was time to speak, not to gossip, but to give people a little more truth, a little more understanding from someone who had quietly witnessed history unfolding, day after day. When someone finally asked him what he thought of Camilla, his answer took everyone by surprise. "It's not good," he said, "but it's not what you think." That short phrase spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people everywhere were asking questions, but when asked to explain, the gardener didn't give a dramatic story. Instead, he offered something more real, something that felt honest and deeply human. Stokes started his work during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. It was a time when royal traditions were sacred, and silence was a sign of loyalty. Through chilly autumns filled with preparations for royal ceremonies and bright spring mornings filled with garden tours, he quietly did his work. Kings and queens, princes and princesses came and went. Scandals rose and faded, but Stokes remained, as steady as the oak trees he cared for. "I wasn't there to make friends," he said once. "I was there to keep the gardens alive." But over time, you start to notice, it's not just the plants that grow or wither. Then came a shift, a change in the air. Her name was Camilla. Most visitors offered him a polite smile, maybe a nod, and then walked on. But not Camilla. She asked questions, real ones. "What kind of flower is this?" she asked. "Can it grow anywhere or just here?" At first, others thought it was just small talk, but Stokes noticed it was more than that. She was present. She was truly paying attention. And she remembered. She remembered his name. She asked how the bulbs they planted last fall were doing this spring. He'd worked under royals who barely knew he existed, but she saw him. As time passed, her visits became more personal. She didn't just stop by during tours or events. She began to come alone, quietly. No bodyguards, no cameras. Sometimes, in the early hours of the morning, she would wander into the gardens when no one else was around. One dawn, while he was raking leaves near the greenhouse, he saw her walking slowly along the gravel path. She had no makeup on. Her hair was loosely tied back. She looked tired, as if the weight of something heavy sat on her shoulders. And at that moment, he didn't see a queen. He didn't see a royal figure. He saw a young woman, human, vulnerable and burdened. That image stayed with him, and maybe it was then that a seed began to grow in his mind. The idea that everything he had seen over the years, every quiet moment, every hushed conversation, every tired glance, wasn't just background noise. It was part of a deeper story. A story where kindness could wear someone out, where public smiles hid private pain, where one of the most adored women in the country might be silently unraveling behind closed doors. He never intended to break anyone's trust. He didn't want to write a tell-all book or start a scandal. But after 20 years of quiet observation, he felt people needed context. Not rumors, not shocking headlines, just understanding. Because sometimes what really matters isn't what the cameras see. It's what happens behind the hedges, where no one's looking. Was there trouble behind palace walls? Was Camilla secretly struggling? Was the fairy tale falling apart? Let's find out. Gardiner's silent observations. For 20 years, Stokes walked the same winding paths through the palace gardens. He trimmed the same old ivy-covered walls, carefully shaped the same ancient trees, and tended to the same flower beds that had seen centuries of royal footsteps. To most, he was just the gardener, quiet, steady, always there in the background. But while he worked with hedge clippers and watering cans, he was also watching, not out of curiosity or gossip, but out of quiet observation. He wasn't only paying attention to plants, he was noticing the people. What he saw over those years became something deeper than a story about flowers or lawns. It was a story about people, real people, living inside a world most of us only glimpse in official parades, cheerful waves from balconies, or polished portraits hanging on palace walls. But Stokes saw what happened in the in-between moments, the moments no cameras captured. He saw the silence before a public appearance when nerves quietly crept in. He saw the small looks passed between family members during those carefully staged walks. He heard the rare sound of raised voices muffled by thick palace windows. "You learn to listen without listening," he once said. "People don't notice the gardener. They think you're just part of the background." And because of that, he gained something rare. Not secret knowledge, but quiet truth. Truth that couldn't be spoken out loud, but was felt. He noticed who thanked the staff and who didn't, who showed up early to greet the public with a smile, and who dragged their feet, clearly wishing they were somewhere else. He saw who treated the workers like people, and who treated them like invisible parts of the palace machinery. But the person who stood out the most to him, the one who changed the most, was Camilla. He had watched her from the beginning, back when she was just the shy girlfriend with a soft smile, always polite, never trying to be the center of attention. Even then, she had a certain presence about her, not proud or demanding, but focused. She walked like someone who had a goal, even when no one was watching. As the years passed, he noticed how she changed. She became more polished, more careful, more royal. Her steps became more measured. Her wave was practiced to perfection. Her smile never faltered. But something else happened too. She grew more distant, less natural. The more perfect she seemed in public, the more he noticed the cracks in private. There were little moments, just a few seconds, but they said so much. A long sigh as she stood alone near the garden gate, a faraway look into the trees, as if she wanted to disappear among the leaves. Sometimes he'd hear a soft whisper, "I'm fine," though it didn't sound like she was, or a quiet, shaky breath before stepping out to meet the crowd. He never judged her. That wasn't his place. But he did worry, because he had seen how the royal world could slowly change people. Even the kind ones, especially the kind ones. Through all the royal weddings, the joyful announcements, and the public storms of scandal, he stayed silent, always in the background. He watched as Camilla became one of the most respected and admired women in the world. But he also saw that admiration came at a price. And after all those years, watching from behind the roses and hedges, he found himself wondering something he never dared to say out loud. So what is not good about Camilla? Let's take a closer look. Camilla's quiet. Visits to the garden. Over many years, he quietly watched the royal family as they walked through the palace gardens. Sometimes photographers were around to take pictures, but other times they were completely alone. Among all the royals, no one spent more time in those gardens or stayed longer than Camilla. But it wasn't for the cameras or to be seen. In fact, most of her visits happened when nobody else was there at all. The gardener called these her quiet visits. She would come early in the morning or late in the afternoon, just when the world felt calm and still. Sometimes she wore high heels and a smart coat dress, and other times she chose comfortable trainers and a hoodie. She didn't rush. She walked slowly, often stopping to gently touch the lavender plants or sit quietly on a stone bench under the shade of birch trees. There was something different about her when she was in the garden. She seemed more peaceful, as if the outside world's pressures faded away. Yet, at the same time, she looked a little distant, like she was trying to remember something very important, or maybe trying to let go of a heavy thought. The gardener remembered how she used to greet everyone with a warm smile. But there were days when that smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Those days weren't just random. He noticed they usually came after big, stressful moments, like after harsh stories in the newspapers or exhausting public events. One morning, after a cruel tabloid had criticized how she looked at a big state banquet, she arrived at the garden long before anyone else. She didn't say a word. She walked quietly along the garden paths, her eyes down, hands tightly clasped behind her back. When the gardener gave her a polite nod, she barely noticed. On another occasion, the gardener saw her after what he guessed was a difficult phone call. She had been pacing around the greenhouse, her phone glued to her ear, speaking quietly but urgently. After the call ended, she stayed in the garden for nearly an hour, standing in the rain without even an umbrella. It wasn't for show. She didn't seem to notice the rain at all. The gardener said it looked like she was trying very hard to gather herself, to hold herself together. He knew that look well. It's the look of someone carrying more inside than they can bear. As the years passed, the gardener began to see the garden as more than just a peaceful place to escape. It was like a mask, similar to the polite smile Camilla often showed the cameras. The garden was her secret refuge, a safe space where she didn't have to explain anything to anyone. But even in this quiet sanctuary, there was a weight, a heaviness that didn't simply disappear after a walk among the roses. The most important thing, the gardener noticed, was that Camilla never invited anyone to join her during these visits. No helpers, no family members, just her and the silence. He believes this wasn't only about needing some alone time. It was because everywhere else, she had no room to be alone. From the outside, life looked perfect, full of elegant events, graceful movements, and the image of a future queen ready to shine. But in the secret corners of the royal gardens, the gardener saw a different story. He saw a woman doing her best to hold everything together, trying hard to catch her breath. But what is it that Camilla doesn't want the people to know? Let's find out. Camilla's hidden struggles. Over more than 20 years working in the gardens, the gardener saw a lot of things: royal events, important conversations, and many grand moments. But one memory stayed with him more than any royal appearance or political rumor. It was how Camilla acted when people tried to talk about her. Camilla was warm and friendly, easy to talk to, but the moment someone started asking about her personal life, her feelings, her needs, or how she was really doing, she would quietly stop the conversation. She didn't do it rudely or angrily, but firmly and clearly. The gardener says this is the side of Camilla that most people never get to see. Behind the bright lights of her public image, the stunning dresses, the smooth speeches, and the perfect family photos, there is a simple but surprising truth. Camilla doesn't ask for help. She doesn't ask her staff, She doesn't ask those close to her, and it even seems like she doesn't ask herself. At first, this might sound like a good thing, like she's strong and independent. But the gardener believes it's not healthy at all. She carries all the weight of her role alone, always has. The pressure, the expectations, the constant attention. It's as if she thinks she must never show weakness. But no one can stay unbreakable forever. The gardener remembers one spring morning during a garden event for children. Everything was running late. The workers were rushing around, trying to fix small problems. A bench hadn't been moved, flower pots were out of place, and the reporters were already gathering outside. Before anyone could act, Camilla arrived. Without hesitating, she rolled up her sleeves and started fixing things herself. She moved heavy flower boxes over gravel while wearing heels. She didn't complain once, just got on with it, he said. They tried to stop her, but she wouldn't let them. To most people, that would look like dedication and hard work. But the gardener saw a warning in it. She wasn't meant to be doing that kind of physical work. It showed that she didn't want anyone to think she needed help. She wanted to prove she could do everything on her own. What's really interesting is that no one expects her to be perfect. The palace has plenty of staff to help her with everything. But over the years, Camilla has taken on more and more tasks, more causes to support, more events to attend, and more personal responsibility. The gardener even heard that she writes many of her charity letters by hand, carefully plans garden projects herself, and reads through even the smallest briefing papers on her own. She once told someone, "If I don't take it seriously, who will?" That line stuck with him. It wasn't just about duty. It was about the heavy pressure she felt. So what is it that Camilla doesn't want the world to know? That being perfect takes a huge effort, that her calm, graceful presence comes from deep exhaustion, and that behind the poise, there is a woman who won't let anyone see her struggle. Not because she's hiding something bad, but because she believes she has no right to struggle at all. So, was Camilla like every other person? Let's find out. Camilla's intentional motherhood. The gardener always said she was different. Over more than 20 years, he quietly watched many members of the royal family come and go. But from the very start, Camilla stood out. It wasn't just because she was polite, thoughtful, or gracefully calm in public. No, it was something much deeper. She carried herself like everything she did was on purpose. Every step she took, every word she spoke, seemed carefully thought through. But what really made Camilla special, the gardener said, was how she became a mother. She didn't just become a mother in the usual way. She became a mother on a mission. Every choice she made after that was about the children's feelings and happiness. That's something many people miss when they only see the official pictures and grand appearances. Behind all that, Camilla is a woman determined to keep the children grounded, balancing royal life with real, everyday experiences. And she's not doing it alone. Charles is right there with her, the gardener confirmed. They are a team in every sense. You can see it in the little moments, how they take turns watching the kids during public events, how they kneel down to talk to them face to face, showing respect and love. They made a clear decision. Their children wouldn't just grow up inside palace walls. They would grow up in a real home. On quiet days when no cameras are around, the gardener would catch glimpses of the family out on the palace grounds. The children would be running wildly through the trees, chasing after one another, tumbling on the grass. Their laughter would fill the air, echoing through the rose gardens and along the paths. Camilla didn't just watch from the sidelines. Sometimes she ran with them, barefoot and laughing, completely breaking from the stiff and serious ways of past royal generations. When she wasn't physically with the children, she was thinking about them. The gardener once overheard her talking to a groundskeeper, asking him to leave a patch of wildflowers untouched so the children could explore it freely. She wanted her kids to get dirty, fall down, and experience nature with scraped knees, not just see it through careful guided tours. She wasn't just raising future heirs to the throne. She wanted to raise real, happy children. The gardener also noticed how protective Camilla became during big public events, but not in a strict or controlling way. She was smart about it. She would walk just behind the children, watching their faces closely. During long ceremonies, she would crouch down between them, whispering to keep them calm, then let them run and play once the formal part was over. This, the gardener believes, is why Camilla is so different. The hard work and heavy responsibility she carries often go unnoticed. She isn't just playing the part expected of her. She is quietly changing what it means to be a royal mother. She knows well how this life can affect people. She has seen the difficulties firsthand. So she has made it her personal mission to protect the children from those challenges, without hiding them away from the world. While the public often praises her for her elegance and grace, the gardener sees something more: a mother standing strong inside a centuries-old royal tradition, quietly trying to grow something new and better, much like Princess Diana did before her. Revealing the truth. Stokes didn't speak just to be heard. He didn't talk to grab attention or make headlines. He spoke because staying silent wasn't enough anymore. The world needed to hear the real story. What he shared about Camilla, even though the newspapers twisted it into something shocking, wasn't a scandal at all. It was true, gentle, and honest. Above all, it was deeply human. When he said, "It's not good," people leaned in, waiting to catch every word, ready to judge and assume the worst. Maybe that's part of the problem. When those words came out, everyone imagined a royal secret, a betrayal, or some dark shadow behind the crown. But what Stokes revealed was much simpler, and maybe even more heartbreaking because of that. He believes Camilla is too kind, too hardworking, and too dedicated. She gives so much of herself as a royal, a mother, a wife, and a public figure. But no matter how strong and calm someone looks, you can't keep giving if your own energy is all used up. Stokes never wanted to hurt her. In fact, he praised her more than anyone else could. But he felt the world needed to know that being perfect can come at a high price. Behind the beautiful photos and fancy events, there's a woman who wakes up early and stays up late. She writes her own letters, studies every detail of her work, and balances being a parent and a queen with the same strength. And she does all of this while millions watch her every move. The truth isn't about palace scandals. It's about what happens when someone refuses to rest, refuses to show weakness, and refuses to step back even for a moment. Camilla is the kind of person who won't take your coat, even if she's freezing cold. She'll smile and say she's warm just because she doesn't want to bother anyone. That's what Stokes saw for 20 years. That's what finally made him speak out. He watched her create something new, not a show, but a quiet change inside the palace walls. A woman who changed what it means to be a mother, reshaped her royal role, and rebuilt the connection between the crown and the people. But in doing all this, she gave more of herself than anyone will ever truly understand. Now, with the world watching closely, rumors growing about her health and why she's been away, Stokes felt there was only one choice left: tell the truth. Sometimes the truth isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. It's sitting alone on a garden bench at sunrise, tired and overwhelmed. It's a queen planting wildflowers for children she may never meet. Her strength is hidden behind kindness and softness. And maybe yes, it's not good, but it's not what everyone thinks. It's the kind of not good that happens when someone gives everything to others and forgets to save anything for themselves. What do you think about the shocking revelation of the royal gardener? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.